Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to be making some clip-on windows for our magnetic tavern tiles. We're going to cut some 2" by 1.5" foam core rectangles. Doesn't matter if it's peel off or not. We're not going to peel these ones, so you can use whatever you have on hand. Here I've cut 4. And we're going to cut in a 3/4" by 1" opening, leaving a border all around in the foam core. These openings are going to form the window spaces of the clip-ons. It's important to use a good sharp knife. Snap off a piece of the blade to get a nice sharp point. Take your time, make multiple passes, and of course be careful because knives are sharp and we don't want anyone getting injured. And it's nice sometimes to come in from both sides of a cut just to get that last little bit of paper in each corner. This video is sped up. It's running at 1.5 speed, just because it's pretty basic cutting. Don't need to take up too much of your time with this one. Pick off any ragged edges. If you have a nice sharp blade, it should be pretty smooth. And you want to do all the windows you're making. And now that all the window openings are cut out, we're going to use a product called granny grating, which cross stitchers and yarn crafters often use. We're going to use this to make the glazier bars inside the windows. I like to hold the actual window up and mark it. And I like to cut them just a touch big for the opening because I like a nice solid friction fit. Once they're all painted up and coated with Mod Podge, those granny grates aren't going to go anywhere because it's going to be fixed in place with all of those dried products. But it's nice to have a good friction fit when you're building them so they're not flipping out or flying around on you. Optionally, you could turn the granny grating on a diagonal at 45 degrees and have that traditional 45 degrees glazing look that you see in many medieval buildings. These are for an inn or a tavern, and I don't think that the innkeeper would have invested extra money for fancier windows. So we're just going to go with regular horizontal and vertical bars. That's just a justification for being lazy and having already cut these straight. And once you get all 4 made, you can move on to the next step. And here I've cut many pieces of 2" popsicle craft sticks. 2" for the width and 2" for the height, and that extra ½ of length for the height is going to give us the clip feature. So we're going to use our hot glue gun and we're going to glue on the vertical pieces, leaving a ½ overhanging at the bottom, and I want the narrow part of the plaster at the bottom of the window. Also, if your craft sticks are slightly bowed, you want them to bow inwards towards the clip-on wall. And that'll give you a more firm connection when you clip the windows onto your tavern tiles on the stub walls. Better to have a slightly firm connection than a loose connection. Pardon my hair and my glasses. So there you see. Those 4 vertical pieces surround the window nicely and they clip onto that piece of foam core really well and the window stays in place just fine. And now we're going to do the rest, which I did off camera. You can see what it looks like there. And now we're going to glue on the horizontal pieces at the top and the bottom to finish framing out the window. Just a little dab of hot glue at the bottom, and we'll add another piece. And because they're all 2 inches, you can cut them in advance and build up a stockpile. Here I cut just enough for the 4 windows that I'm making. And you can see with those 2 horizontal pieces in place, it's looking really good. There will be slight gapping between the actual plaster of the wall and the outermost horizontal trim piece, and I'm okay with that. Once it's painted up and from 2.5, 3 feet away on the table, you're never going to see it. And I think the time saved not filling those gaps is well worth it. And here we go, we'll clip it onto that piece of foam core again, and you can see it looks great. And we'll do the rest. And there you can see the gapping at the top and the bottom, which I don't consider that crucial to fill. And now we're going to start painting them with the same color scheme that we used for the rest of our Tavern Inn accessories. So we're going to use that camel color medium tan for the plaster, and I'm going to paint it on the glazing bars of the windows as well as kind of a primer to help the metallic paint stick later. I'm just using a spade shaped brush for this. Pardon the off-camera work, I'm still getting used to working under my camera. There we go, that's better. Even an old dog learns a new trick once in a while. And slapping the paint on where the plaster shows, catching the tops and the sides between the wood craft sticks. I might get a little of this color on the craft sticks too, but I'm not too worried about that right now. We're going to cover them up later with the wood tones that we used for the rest of the accessories. All the plaster and all the muntin bars in the window and the sides and the top. A couple more, and then we're ready to move on to the next step. Put on some tunes, listen to some movies. Teach yourself to count to 1,000 in Latin. Of course, Professor Dungeon Master probably already knows how to do that. Pretty sure Jeremy does too. Granny grading is trying to escape, so I'm just popping it back in place with my thumb. And again, once it gets all coated with paints and Mod Podge, it's not going anywhere. It's looking good. Almost ready for the next step. Now we're going to go with coffee bean medium brown. And we're just going to coat all the craft sticks, and we're going to catch the edges and the cut ends as we can. Not being extraordinarily careful because those gaps that I talked about earlier are making it really easy for me to catch the edges without getting the brown paint on the tan stucco. Just take my time. Do both sides, tops and bottoms. Make sure I'm driving the paint in where the two pieces lap on top of each other, just so that there's no pale wood showing in there. It wouldn't be the end of the world, but if you take a moment and just cover those edges, it gives it a little more finished look at the end. And we're going to do all four. I'm not too worried about 100% consistent coverage of the color. I don't mind a little bit of variation. Artists will tell you that sometimes the magic happens in the randomness of the mist bit, or the way the paint layered on with a little bit of chaos, and I don't mind that. And I'm going to dry brush it afterwards anyway, so do your best. If you get a little bit of brown on the stucco, that's not such a bad deal. When you're dry brushing it, you can just dab a little bit of the tan back onto the stucco if you like. And the window grills are going to be painted a metallic bronze color, so that will all be covered up anyway. Catching those edges, trying not to get any on the stucco. Not sweating too much about it. These things don't take very long to put together, and they don't take very long to paint. Do both sides, make sure you catch all the edges and the tops and bottoms. And it's entirely possible I got a little paint on my fingers, but that's not the end of the world. I'm using dollar store acrylic craft paint, and it washes off with a little warm soap and water. Make sure you catch all the corners and the edges, both sides, top and bottom, front and back. And they're looking good. Just making sure they're not sticking. And now we're going to move on to dry brushing a little bit. And this just adds a touch of character. You could probably leave them the way they are right now if you wanted to for the wood, but I like a little bit of dry brush, and it doesn't take that much time. Just a little bit here and there. Nothing serious. I don't want full coverage, just a touch of highlights, touch of wood grain. Make it look like it's been there for a while. See here, I'm just lightly stroking once or twice across each piece and calling it done. It's not a lot, but it makes a difference. And now we're going to start painting the window bars. I started out with a brass colored paint because I thought a brighter window bar would look nice against that dark wood. But when I got it painted, it's hard to tell on camera, but when I got it painted with the brass color, it was coming across as a little too gold. I didn't really like it. So this first one gets the brass treatment, and then I thought, nah, I want a little more contrast, so I'm going to go with bronze. And there's me. There I am squeezing out a little bit of bronze paint there. And I'll do the next one in the bronze color, and you can see the difference immediately. Yeah, a little more contrast against that tan stucco. A little more shine. A little bit cheaper material than brass, I think. It is an inn or a tavern, so the guy's not going to be like spending wealthy merchant money on windows. The owner. Or the franchisor, as it were. I'm just using my spade-shaped brush and scrubbing it in. I might get a little dot of bronze here or there, but if that happens, then I can just come back and touch it up afterwards. In these cases, I did a pretty fair job, and I didn't get too much paint outside of where I wanted it. Now you get surface tension causing a paint bubble in between the bars. You may be able to just keep painting over it and have it pop or redistribute the paint. If not, then you can use like a toothpick or a matchstick or something and just poke the paint that formed the skin, and then it should burst. And here I'm just going over that brassy color with the bronze because I want them all to be the same. And I'm just going to touch up a little more dry brush with the tan color, a couple places where I got some the wrong color of paint. Just a quick little touch. Nothing serious. And if you get a little too much paint on there, you can wipe it off with your finger. And there we go. Looking good. And here are our doors and our windows all together. Didn't take very long. And in a moment, I'm going to show you the whole thing on some tavern tiles. Final product, set up to be a bit of a boarding house or a small wayside inn or something like that. Here we go. I call this the Crooked Carpenter Inn. And the structure behind these tiles was actually made to store the tiles inside of. It all comes apart, friction fits, nests together, and the tiles stack up nicely inside the bottom floor and the balcony floor that is shown here. So we have tavern tiles, chairs and tables, clip-on doors, and clip-on windows. Stay tuned for our next episode where we'll build a few more accessories to finish out the Tavern Inn interior playability. Thanks for joining me. Catch you next time.